What is going on, y'all? It is the Caveman back at it again with another video. And since 6 weeks have passed in the NFL season, I decided why not give an updated power rankings video. I did one right before the season started. Let's do another one 6 weeks later. My plan is going to be to put out a power rankings video every 6 weeks because 6 goes into 18. There are 18 weeks. So I'll have 4 total power rankings videos with the one that I did before the season started. It's going to be pretty cool to go back and see how my perspective of each NFL team has changed from the start of the season all the way to the end. We're going to evaluate how I looked at each team before the season started and compare it to how I'm seeing them now. Before we get into it, as always, you guys know the drill around here. Mott's applesauce. If you're ever hungry, thirsty, whatever it might be, Mott's applesauce will satisfy whatever satisfying you need to satisfy. You have the Caveman guarantee. I promise it will never fail you. Let's update the power rankings. All right, so let's first check out the power rankings that I made prior to week 1. Let's take a look here. I had, of course, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the top, the runner-up to the Super Bowl winners being the Kansas City Chiefs at 2, and then the 2 conference winners at 3 and 4. I think I made a pretty standard power rankings list before the season began. Just like any other power rankings list that you're going to see, I'm going to have the plus or the minus next to the team name when I show you my updated list, and I'm going to tell you how many spots that each team has fell or, moved up in comparison to week 1. Yeah, here is that first power rankings list that I've ever made. Let's pull out week number 6 and see how it compares. I divvied this up into thirds. Let's start with 32 through 21. I have the Miami Dolphins at 32nd, and I don't want to hear any complaining. I was literally this close to putting them at 32nd before the season even started. They've absolutely solidified that placement for me. I mean, Brian Flores is the most overrated coach in the NFL. Tua Tagovailoa sucks. The roster isn't what they thought it was. They are a disgrace. They're pathetic. I mean, they just lost to the Jaguars. There's no reason to have them any higher. They belong where they're at the bottom of this list. As you can tell by the plus and minuses, the biggest surprises in this bottom third are the Seattle Seahawks and the Washington football team. The Seattle Seahawks specifically taking the biggest fall. And that's mainly because Russell Wilson got injured and he's going to be out for 6, 7, 8 weeks, however long it's going to be. I mean, it's going to be a very, very tough time winning games with Geno Smith at quarterback, not to mention Chris Carson's on IR. They're just struggling with injury after injury. And other than Russell Wilson, I mean, what do the Seattle Seahawks do? Russell Wilson is responsible for about 92% of their offensive production. That's not an official stat, but literally, like, he is their entire team. I will be shocked if by the time Russell Wilson comes back that the Seattle Seahawks will still be hovering around a playoff spot. That will be rather surprising, especially in the division that they sit in the NFC West. But yeah, I mean, the Seahawks, it's tough for them, minus 16, but that Russell Wilson injury really, really plummeted them. Another team that I mentioned that has dropped pretty far was the Washington football team. I think everybody had different expectations, especially for this defense going into the season, and they have failed each and every one of them. That defense has been getting shredded horribly. I mean, what happened? Everybody thought this was going to be one of the better defenses in the NFL, and they have disappointed big time. And Taylor Heineke's been struggling. Ryan Fitzpatrick got hurt. Antonio Gibson can't stay healthy. I mean, that team, they are in absolute shambles. They retired Sean Taylor's number without giving any notice to try and get the scandal and all the other shit from being focused on. I mean, the football team, they're kind of down bad right now. Minus 8, I think, is pretty generous. And I would say the rest of the teams in this bottom third should be no surprise. At least I would hope. Moving into the second third, we got 11 through 21. Now, there are a few teams in this section of the list that have exceeded my expectations, specifically the Cincinnati Bengals and the Las Vegas Raiders. Everybody knows how the Cincinnati Bengals offseason went. We were all questioning why the Bengals took Jamar Chase instead of Penei Sewell. They needed to protect Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's going to get murdered again, blah, blah, blah. I thought for sure they were going to have protection issues, and Jamar Chase was the wrong draft choice. But I mean, that dude has made such an impact. He's the best deep ball receiver in the NFL right now. Joe Burrow really hasn't been getting hit all that much in comparison to last year, especially. I mean, they are a talented roster. I think they have an issue with playing up or down to the level of their opponent, but still, they're an extremely talented team and have proved me wrong, and they have a plus 13 boost from where I had them to start the season. So that's the biggest jump you're going to see on this list. Raiders are the other team in this bunch that have certainly exceeded my personal expectations for them. I laughed at their offseason. They literally repainted their offensive line for what I thought was no reason. I did not think that Derek Carr had enough help around him. I mean, Josh Jacobs and Kenny Drake are okay, but their offensive line is just so putrid. Darren Waller's decent, but outside of him, they really don't have any receivers. Their defense was the biggest issue for me personally. Their defense, I mean, as we all know, it's known to get get shredded. I had no hope for this team whatsoever, but they have certainly proved me wrong as they sit at 4-2, tied for first in the AFC West, the second hardest division in football. They deserve all the credit that they should be getting in the world right now, especially fighting through all the bullshit with all the drama surrounding them with John Gruden. I mean, 4-2, sitting at the top of the AFC West, or tied for it, that's pretty damn good. The other two teams in this bunch I want to mention are the Cleveland Browns and the Indianapolis Colts. I'll talk about the Browns first. I think I'm rather generous with this spot. It's only because they're dealing with so many injuries, but I even think if they're healthy, Baker Mayfield is holding them back, but I still think I'd have them in the top 10 if they were a healthier roster. It's going to be interesting to see how they respond with all these injuries, especially going into this Thursday night game against the Denver Broncos, as they're not going to have Kareem Hunt or Nick Chubb. So I'm really interested to see how this Cleveland Browns team responds. But for right now, I'm going to put them at 12, and I think that's rather generous, but I think a lot of people are going to have them a lot lower. And the Colts, I quickly want to mention because they're not higher on this list simply because of their 2-4 record. But if you've been following my content as of late, you would know that I think the Colts are going to make a jump as the season progresses. So this 15th ranking, I think it's as high as I could put them right now until they prove more. But I think that's going to happen, and we'll see a movement on this list sooner than later. Alrighty, mates, this is the cream of the crop, the top 10, the big boys in the NFL. This is where things might get a tad controversial. There are two big shocks a part of this final third. Of course, one being viewed in a positive light and the other being viewed in a negative light. Let's talk about the positive light, as the Arizona Cardinals have jumped to the top of everybody's power rankings list. They have moved up 13 spots from when I viewed them prior to the season beginning. They are tied for the second largest jump that I have on this list, plus 13 spots from where I had them to begin the season. I did not think that adding age over the offseason was going to help them this much, but James Conner, AJ Green, other guys like JJ Watt, they've been on fire, and there's no other way to put it. Had the Bills beaten the Tennessee Titans this past week on Monday Night Football, I would have a better case for them to be number one, but unfortunately that was not what happened. I think they still have a little bit to prove, but it's just you're fighting an uphill battle trying to put any other team at the top of your power rankings list. I think they are the unanimous top team right now. And of course, the team a part of this bunch that has shocked me in a negative way was the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, wow, I never would have saw this coming. A team that was literally in the Super Bowl, failing to even come atop of their division or even sniff it. They are struggling horribly. Their defense has been blowing coverages left and right. Patrick Mahomes is playing hero ball, and he's looking pretty brutal doing it. These have just been a mess. I mean, like 50-year-old Ricky Seals-Jones, a tight end for the Washington football team, had like a 50-yard touchdown last week because the Kansas City Chiefs just cannot help but blow coverage left and right. They've been absolutely miserable. But, second to ninth probably isn't the biggest fall you've ever seen from them. I know a lot of people probably have the Chiefs outside of their top 10, but, I just can't count the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes out. I know for a fact that they're going to bounce back. Things are not going to continue to go the way they're going. And I know this is a present-day power rankings list, but I just know they're going to bounce back, and I'm just going to hold them in the top 10 because I think that's where Patrick Mahomes belongs until things really start to go south. Briefly mentioned it earlier, unfortunately, I can only have the Bills at 5, right? I mean, they're 4-2. I think they're definitely the best 4-2 team. I think they're probably in the top 3 of the NFL right now if I'm, letting my bias leak in a little bit, but unfortunately, they lost to the Titans. It is what it is. I gotta be real. I know some people might be interchanging the Rams and the Bucks, but I think those two teams absolutely belong in the top 3. I think they're two of the most well-rounded rosters in the NFL. And the 3 other teams in this bunch that have kind of shocked me to some capacity are the Chargers, the Cowboys, and the Ravens. The Chargers, not so much. I was completely in belief that they were going to have a fantastic season, and they have up to this point, other than the Ravens absolutely kicking their ass. I was absolutely on the Chargers hype train from day one. I love Justin Herbert. I didn't think he was going to hit any sophomore slump. Their defense is kind of getting shredded, but, Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, Jared Cook, Mike Williams, that offense is just too high-powered. They can keep up with almost anybody. The Cowboys are another team that I was somewhat buying into the hype of. I definitely wasn't saying they were going to be as good as they are right now. I mean, Trayvon Diggs has come on the scene and, become one of the best corners in the NFL. He does let up a lot of yards, but I mean, the dude is a pick machine. I did not view them being a top 10 team at this point in the season, maybe right on the outskirts at 11 or 12, but with the Browns falling out, I think that kind of let them have some space in the top 10. The Cowboys have been lights out. And the Ravens are the final team that I want to talk about on this list. I was one of the biggest Lamar Jackson haters you will ever meet. I have completely taken a 180 on my opinion of Lamar Jackson. I love the guy. I mean, I loved him before. He's a great human being. I did not like him as a football player. Now I love him as a football player. He has proven to me that he has made the improvements. He has matured as a passer, and he absolutely deserves all the credit in the world. Especially considering the fact that their offensive line kind of went through a little bit of a change, and they went through all those injuries. They lost Marcus Peters. I mean, they also lost 3 of the running backs. I can't remember all of them off the top of my head. Gus Edwards. I don't remember off the top of my head. But anyway, they suffered a lot of injuries, and Lamar Jackson has coped perfectly well. The dude is literally carrying the Ravens on his back. But yeah, those are my power rankings for week 7 or post week 6, however you want to say it. I'm going to update this list come week 12 or after week 12. Let me know what you think. I don't think it's all that controversial. I think some people might have like the Bucs above the Rams or something like that. Let me know where your team ranks on this list. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, as always, please like, subscribe, do all the fun stuff. If you want to hit the bell to be notified when I upload, I would appreciate that. If you want to go over to Twitter, follow me over there. I would appreciate that as well. I'm a part of the Built-in Buffalo content creation team. If you enjoy Buffalo Bills content, be sure to follow and subscribe to us on any social medias you might have, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.